I'm Eric Marcus, and I'll be leading today's discussion. Just like the people you're about to meet, I know all too well what it's like to lose a loved one to suicide. 40 years ago, when I was 12, my father took his life. When my dad was well, he was a fun parent. He could create whole worlds out of sofa cushions and sheets. And he taught me how to box. At least he tried. But my dad also suffered from severe depression, beginning when he served in the Navy at the end of World War II. For most of my dad's friends and family, his suicide was shocking, but not a surprise. For me, it was a shattering and confusing experience. They said he died from pneumonia, but I quickly figured out the truth. At the time, none of the adults in my life would talk to me about it, which made me feel angry, ashamed, and very alone. Because my dad's death left me with a lot of unanswered questions, I later wrote a book to help people like me who were left behind after a suicide with more questions than answers. 2 years ago, my sister-in-law also took her life. Her death brought back a lot of painful emotions and memories, but the adult part of me knew I didn't have to experience this alone, not this time. Just a couple of weeks after her death, I went to a National Survivors of Suicide Day conference in New York City. I found it comforting to be surrounded by so many people who had a pretty good sense of what I was living through. And it helped me, just as I hope that our discussion today will be of comfort to you. There's so many things I'd like to ask all of you, and our time is short. The first part of our discussion will last about 50 minutes, and then we'll invite Dr. Sid Zissuk to join our conversation. Dr. Zissuk is an expert on suicide prevention and bereavement in the aftermath of a suicide. Before I start asking questions, I'd like to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourself and tell us about the loved one you lost to suicide. Peggy, can you start us off?
Sure. My name is Peggy Marshall, and I'm from Dallas, Texas. And 4.5 years ago, I came home to find an unimaginable nightmare was a reality. My husband of 18 years lost a battle with depression and shot himself, ended his life. And Ed was the last person you would ever suspect to suffer from depression, much less choose suicide. He was a very successful businessman and bright, remarkable sense of humor, just quick wit, enjoyed really making people laugh, and really enjoyed life. But underneath all of that was a very deep undercurrent of sadness that went back to a very traumatic childhood. And it included the loss of his mother when he was age 8, his mother took her life. And several years later, his dad died of a heart attack. And he was not able to really attend the funerals or to really talk about their deaths. And he was left with a stepmother and then later a stepfather who abused the kids emotionally and physically. And so after enduring this for years, the way he survived is that he stuffed it all down really deep, and all of the hurt and the unresolved grief. And he was able to mask it pretty well. I was always amazed because having had this kind of traumatic childhood, he could have turned out to be a very bitter, angry and mean-spirited person, but he wasn't. He was very loving, and he was very kind and gentle, and he just loved life. So most of his friends didn't know that he was depressed, and he was able to mask it very well until year 2000 he lost a pretty significant job, and he just never recovered from that hurt, and some of the grief from childhood resurfaced, and he had jobs after that, but the hurt just resurfaced. And even with all kinds of help from professionals and from medications, he wasn't able to pull out of the depression, and he became isolating more and more and withdrawing from his friends, and wound up taking his life.
Thank you, Peggy. Greg?
I'm Greg Kiesling. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, and Negril, Jamaica. My son, Chancellor Kiesling, died by suicide in Iraq, Baghdad, Iraq, on June 19th of 2009. He was on his second deployment. Chancellor was a great kid. He was one of 3 children for my wife and I. And he decided to join the military in 2003. And it was a shock to us, but he was committed to go serve his country. During his first deployment in 2006, his marriage broke up and he had some real difficult times. His battle buddies there saved his life because they knew he was in trouble and they took away his firearm. On his second deployment in 2009, he had a new girlfriend and he had a big fight with her, and things began to spiral very quickly for us. It was a little bit over 24 hours. And we got a suicide email about 17 hours before he died saying they knew he was in trouble. He had gone to the Porta-John and he had chambered around in his gun, his M4, but he'd emailed us saying, I know I need help and I'm sorry for everything. And my wife took it very seriously, to be quite honest. I did not take it as seriously. I mean, I knew it was a serious thing, but I felt he was reaching out, trying to get the girlfriend to accept his apology. My wife is the real star of this and her work to talk to him for hours and hours. And it was midnight our time, about 8 o'clock Baghdad time, and we thought he was on his way to see the chaplain, but he didn't make it.
Thanks, Greg. Lucia?
I am Lucia. I live in California with my other 2 children. My son John, on November 2005, my son John died by suicide at the age of 17. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. John was a very special young man. He had a heart of gold. He was very compassionate and a peacemaker. He was a very talented too. Everything that he got involved with was a joy for him. He succeeded in performing arts and music and physics and math, computer programming. He was a runner. He played the guitar and composed his own songs too. John was an easygoing. He was very easygoing and had many friends. He was funny and his friends loved him. He was a wonderful son and a wonderful brother, and we miss him. We really miss him. I have to say that although the pain of losing John has become more bearable, I have John in my heart and my mind every single day. And there was a time when I thought that I was not going to survive this. But God had different plans, and here I am today, hoping that my experience will help those who are beginning the journey.
We're also glad that you're here today. Thank you. Leanne?
I'm Leanne. I'm from the Klamath, Modoc, and Paiute tribes of Southern Oregon. My sister, Brittany Baldwin, took her life November 21st, 2006. She was 21 years old, and she had a young daughter, a beautiful young daughter, and she, she loved life and everything that it had to offer, and she was, a wonderful mother to her daughter, and she was an awesome sister and friend, and, she was always there if you needed somebody to talk to. And she had been struggling a lot with some life changes that were going on, and she was doing things, engaging in behaviors that were out of character for her, and she wanted help. And so she reached out and decided that she was going to go to treatment, and she called me 2 weeks before she passed and, said that she was going to be going to inpatient treatment in Portland. So, I told her that I would come and visit her and, keep in contact with her. And, we told each other we loved each other, and shortly after that, she took her life. And, she was very proud of her culture and her people and where she came from. And I think through the work that I do and to honor her memory in a good and positive way, I'm helping to do that and to make something out of her life.
I'm sure she'd be so proud of you.